Ladies and gentlemen, 2012, the overarching issue of CONVOCO is between what is and what should be societies that break their law as a threat to liberty. I selected this particular subject matter because it's highly topical and affects the very core of our societies. Here we talk about breaking the law as a social day-to-day affair, as a cultural construct, and as an action that can be sanctioned with laws. The collective breaking of the law is an expression or the result of, or rather driving force of, historical development processes. Are they a condition of societies and social change, or are they the result of social changes? We want to try to answer the question which role laws play for our peaceful coexistence, and we also want to speak about the significance of civil rights for our dynamic, modern, and open societies. From when on does the process of informalization and pluralization of rules start off to erode civil rights and turns out to be a threat for liberty? As such, ladies and gentlemen, most of us can be called extremely lucky because we are only familiar with a life in freedom. And we take it as given, but we should be aware of the fact that it is really a great good which is worth being protected. We need to think of ways and means of banning and stopping laws from being broken. You all know our Minister of Justice, Mrs. Leuthäuser-Schnarrenberger. At the very beginning of this year, the minister was asked the question as to why she was not willing to implement an EU directive for data retention. And her answer was the following. The Commission in Brussels instigated more than 50 procedures against Germany for violating EU agreements, and therefore one more case wouldn't be a matter anyways. So therefore, breaking the laws is something which in Germany has moved up to the state level already. In Bavarian schools, it has been prohibited to use mobile phones for several years now, but most pupils don't abide by these rules. But many teachers, although they are aware of the pupils using the mobile phones in the classroom, turn a blind eye. They're afraid of confronting these pupils. Therefore, it is easy to assume that breaking the laws is a process which becomes socially acceptable. And the most important question is whether the collective breaking of the law will become a standard. Collective breaking of the law takes place at various different levels. The Maastricht Agreement has not been complied with for many years because otherwise the Eurozone would not have to be afraid that it might lose its existence. Collective violations of legal provisions are now being declared to be rescue measures, and people say this lightheartedly. Our financial markets got out of control. On the 26th of September 2011, in the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, it said, "But why care about laws in times of crisis?" But with the issue of the collective violation of laws of this year, we also refer to the issue which was on our agenda last year. Who owns the knowledge of the world? Of course, we are, in very concrete terms, confronted with violations of international property rights on a day-to-day basis. People who would never steal a package of chewing gum download content in the internet without having a bad conscience. The American film industry, according to its own indications, seems to lose $60 billion on an annual basis due to illegal downloads. Just imagine what this means. Another point of reference concerning last year's issue is revealed in violations of data privacy rules and regulations that we have to accept on a daily basis. The Commissioner for Data Privacy of the Federal State of Schleswig-Holstein, Dr. Thilo Reichert, recently said it in an interview. Unfortunately, it is still the case that a global player, and thus he meant Google, can use rules and regulations in order to do away with data privacy rules without having any possibility to take countermeasures. Because our world, which is in the middle of undergoing profound changes, is accepting collective violations of laws. The revolution in the information technology sector changes our society, our way of thinking, and our communication channels. It sort of erodes traditional structures and changes the world that we were used to. In this world, we develop multiple identities due to our nationality, our profession, our religious beliefs, our ethnic communities, or maybe also because of our internet avatar. New technologies accelerate the process of globalization. At the end of the day, they lead to a fragmented world. In the future, our world will be characterized more and more by multipolar centers. There are reciprocal relations between different legal communities. This will automatically lead to violations of the law that we commit as a collective and accept them. Today's world becomes ever more complex. It is characterized by permanently changing coalitions. And this leads to the fact that the question concerning responsibility assumes ever greater significance. My answer to the question, who belongs the knowledge of the world, has been and still is, it should belong to those who are willing to take on responsibility. Responsibility in the sense of the common good, the bonum commune of Cicero and Caesar. Already Aristotle judged a government system according to its capability of nurturing the common good concerning security and prosperity of its citizens. So therefore, today, it's all the more of the essence to take active action in order to take on responsibility. Paracana, an expert for geopolitics, in his book, Who Rules the World, speaks of the diplomacy of action. Today, it is not so much significant who carries out an intervention, but what is much more important is that it has to have positive repercussions. We are living in a world where it is absolutely of the essence to deal with problems in a completely new fashion. Informal mechanisms can be much more effective and efficient than laws which are not being respected or cannot be enforced. So this new world calls for more increasing responsibility. All those who participate in CONVOCO today are willing to take more responsibility for our life in the future. It is important for us to take the initiative and take action here and now. Theodor V. Adorno said, the most difficult task is rather impossible, namely, not to let one's mind be dulled through the power of others or our own powerlessness. This calls for action. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm absolutely delighted to be able to welcome two persons here today who deserve special attention and our respect for their action. His Excellency Shaukat Aziz, the former Premier of Pakistan, and Professor Peter Eigen, the founder of Transparency International. His Excellency Shaukat Aziz was the Premier of Pakistan between 2004 and 2007. Prior to that, he served as the Minister of Finance for a period of 5 years. He actively fought against corruption in his country. His political strategy was based on transparency. This is why he enjoyed a great reputation home and abroad. The reforms introduced by him led to the fact that Pakistan became one of the most rapidly growing economies in Asia. There was an average annual growth rate of 7.5%. Professor Peter Eigen, after having served for the World Bank for many years, founded Transparency International back in 1993. Transparency International, as you all know, is an NGO fighting predominantly against corruption. A new ranking of the University of Pennsylvania puts Transparency International in position number 8 of the worldwide leading think tanks. The organization annually publishes a corruption perception index and, in order to come full circle, also a bribe payers index. Furthermore, the organization also presents the Integrity Award, which does not always please all the participants. Welcome, Excellency Shaukat Aziz. Welcome, Professor Eigen.
For me that you're here tonight, and I'm looking forward to your talks. You will talk about the core issue in the field of breaking the law, about corruption. Das Thema des heutigen Abends lautet die Rolle.
The issue on today's agenda is the role of civil society for a fairer global governance, the fight against international corruption. Where corruption starts, states begin to fail. Corruption means a continuous process of dissolving state structures and the legal system. Corruption destroys the very foundation of the peaceful coexistence of citizens in security within a state. This, last but not least, results in civil wars, national violence, and oppression. The worst forms of terrorism can be a consequence of this. Maybe the kind of violence emanating from these states might be the greatest danger for the security and safety of the Western world. So the very important question arises, how do we deal with the problem of the fragmentalization of many nation states effectively and efficiently? Ladies and gentlemen, these are my thoughts. Many thanks for your attention.